There is so much happening right now. Mercury has just gone retrograde in Pisces, and we are moving towards a full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo on Tuesday, March 3rd. And the message feels very clear to me. The more rigid the idea of purity and right behavior becomes, the more we quietly split the world into acceptable and unacceptable parts, including ourselves. We are approaching the final eclipse in this eclipse pair, and we will be experiencing the full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo very soon on Tuesday. And Virgo traditionally is associated with the Virgin, not in the shallow sense that people throw around, but in the deeper symbolic sense of newness, innocence, openness, and that state of not yet knowing. And this energy of the Virgin is often mistaken for goodness, for service, for purity, for being right. But there is a sneaky misconception hidden inside that word, quote unquote, purity. Many people unconsciously believe that purity is something that you would lose through experience. That once you fail, learn, make mistakes, been touched by life, or you just behave imperfectly, you somehow become less pure. And that is an absolutely painful way to move through reality, because it leads you to scold yourself for being young, for learning, for experimenting, for becoming. And this Virgin symbol associated with Virgo is so deeply misunderstood. And from an astrological perspective, I would just say this week, slow down and pause into what Virgo really is about, not what maybe has been spread through the mainstream. Because there is a pitting against one another between the Virgin and what? What do you think the opposite of the Virgin is? It's these archetypes of the Virgin versus the prostitute. And on the one hand, when we go to the extreme understanding of it, we could say the Virgin is the one who's never been touched. And then on the other hand, prostitute is the one who has mastered touch and now charges money for it. And people will quietly assume one is higher and the other is fallen. And this is one of those false hierarchies. This is one of those places where you can be aware of the duality and create an unhealthy dynamic inside yourself. The Virgin is untouched, is not more sacred than the one who has experienced and learned how to navigate life, intimacy, and power. Pitting them against each other literally creates shame where there should be wisdom. And it honestly distorts this part of the soul's purpose of growing up, of becoming, of learning through experience, because the soul then is afraid to be touched by life, can't return to the point where it is, quote unquote, that Virgin again. And then it stays in a fight with itself. And dare I say something very provocative, but true, that there is a place where the Virgin and the prostitute both exist, that they aren't against each other, but one of the same. And I know you're going to think that's a little off the rails, but it's in astrology. So if you look at the symbols, Virgo and Scorpio tell the story of the Virgin and the prostitute. And the glyph of the Virgo is an M with the tail turned inward. Scorpio is the same M, but the tail turns outward. One directs energy inward to contain and refine. The other directs energy outward to experience and transform. In essence, Virgo contains, Scorpio engages. Neither is morally superior. Both are just two ways of handling the same energy, and that energy is desire. And so at this eclipse, it is really digging into this part of our soul's purpose, just to exist, just to live, just to grow, just the root of all roots of purpose. And purity cannot belong to Virgo because it's a false sense of purity. Purity is not the absence of experience. Purity is the absence of rejection. And if we want to get existential with this Mercury retrograde in Pisces, it's asking us to reflect, not react. Ask yourself, why would someone deeply experienced ever crave someone with no experience? Because the one who is that false sense of purity through the Virgin, it doesn't judge yet. And the reason is because when you have only had one experience of something, you can't compare it to anything else. You can't rank it. You can't divide reality into better and worse versions. Judgment literally begins with two. Comparison literally lives in duality. And once comparison enters, which it has for all of us, the moment we start living and having experiences, not just with physical virginity, but with all of the things that we once were virgin to and then step into, once comparison enters, the mind will categorize everything as right or wrong, pure, impure, acceptable, unacceptable. You are constantly comparing and judging this moment against other moments. You will constantly be comparing and judging, your current vocation with a previous one. You will constantly be comparing friendships now to friendships then. But it doesn't have to be that way. And that's the invitation of what Scorpio and Virgo are actually doing in the chart, which is saying you can still come into a moment with duality without rejection of others or rejection of yourself, without comparison, without judgment. That is the highest form of purity. And that's what we're asked to do with this Virgo eclipse. So where are you judging this version of yourself against an older version? Is it with your health, with your body? Is it with your career and your success? Is it with your friendships and your old friendships? Is it with is it the state of your partnerships now versus the way they were, 10 years ago, 15 years, 20 years ago? Because it's about becoming more discerning, not with others, but within yourself, about where you might divide the world up into pieces accidentally, not on purpose. And the energy of the eclipse is saying, hey, be aware of this. You need to refine without rejecting. You need to learn without shaming any version of yourself. You need to be able to grow without labeling your previous versions as impure. Because the moment that you decide that only the perfect version of you is acceptable, you will unconsciously exile every part of you. Because these pieces of the puzzle, this part of you that desires to live, to experience, to grow, will continue to do so until it can arrive in moments where it doesn't judge, where it doesn't shame, where it doesn't try to evolve other people or turn them into different versions. It doesn't try to turn itself into a different version, nor does it put hierarchy around different moments in time. The soul was never designed to split itself in two through judgment. The soul is not doing it. That would be the ego's projection onto the soul. And so this week, what I want to do is bring you into the chart where you can actually see where Mercury has gone retrograde in your astrological houses. This is one of the most important interpretations that you can connect to because it will tell you where you are about to repeat a lesson, where you need to not do what you've done before, and where you need to choose a new path. And dare I say that this is probably a place where you have had incredible self-judgment and self-criticism on yourself, maybe to an unhealthy degree, which we all do because we all do this at parts of our lives as we move through things. It's hard not to fall into the comparison of this moment versus that. But let the cosmos guide us. It's guiding me. Let me invite you into my process so that you can work with the alignments in a way that is holy, that is sacred, that helps support who you are inside in your relationship to yourself. Go ahead and look at the links and notes below so you can follow the instructions to get your free natal chart navigator, and then go into AI, copy and paste the prompt, and get the answers from your chart. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you're subscribed so you can stay notified next week when I release another podcast episode. Much love to you in the cosmos. Bye.